front end does not want to grip here, and it's pretty hard to hit the apex at the right speed. And one of the fun turns waits for Jan Nims. The 130R, the left-hander, and he has lost a lot of time somewhere in the track. He is already 5/10 behind the leader. There will be no better lap time for Jan Nims this time around. Julian Gonzalez has made a mistake somewhere out on the track, which leaves Jakub Harkot unbeaten at the moment. David Perez is trying his best. He was a little bit faster at the first section of the track. A couple of hundredths of a second was to his favor, but there's still a lot to do on this racetrack. 5.8 kilometers, 18 turns. It's a pretty technical and hard track to get it right. Slides a little bit entering the spoon turn, but collects the apexes and is still on the go. Matas Mendelis is out on the track, right in front of David Perez. Cabrero has bettered his lap time. He's currently in 8th position. And David Perez lost lots of ground in the mid-section of the track. There will be no better time for David at this moment, so it's looking good for Jakub Harkot. David Perez ends his lap without any better result. Matas Mendelis was a tiny bit slower than he was before, so he remains in position number 6. We have a couple of drivers still out on track. One of them is Ernestas Andrijauskas, but that should be the over of qualifying for him. Lucian Prochnica, the Polish driver, currently in 5th position, and he makes his lap time a little bit better, and he goes up into 4th place. That was the end for the qualifying session for the 4th round of the Ring Freaks GT3 Endurance Series. We have Jakub Harkot, the driver who won 2 pole positions in a row. He was the fastest guy on track a week ago, and he managed to repeat the result this time. Julian Gonzalez starting 2nd, Jan Nims 3rd, Lucian Prochnica 4th, and David Perez will start the race from 5th position. The top 10 drivers do not fit into 1 second. The gap is 1.3 seconds, but it's pretty tight throughout the grid. The slowest driver, German Salguero, 2 minutes 4 seconds and 5/10. He's 3 seconds slower than the leader. That should promise us a pretty nice and competitive race. That's what we all have gathered here to watch and witness a phenomenal and nice racing battle. 45 seconds till the race starts. I have got some nice information about the tires that the drivers are starting with, and it looks like that most of the grid is starting on medium compound tires. Only a couple of back runners will try their luck on a different strategy, starting the race with a soft rubber. We're about to get racing. 10 seconds till the lights will go out. I have to wait for the bus moment to jump onto the track. And we have a green light. The cars have started the race side by side, and the pole sitter did not make a great start. He's on the outside of the track, and he has gone a little bit wide, and Harkot is losing lots of positions. He's down into 6th place, and right now battling Matas Mendelis, going side by side through the S's, which are becoming a little bit slower as the turns progress. Jakub Harkot did not find the space to try and overtake Matas Mendelis, so he's down into 6th position and he will have lots of work to do starting from this moment. He has 5 cars in front of him, but being the fastest on the grid, he will be willing to make some passes and try to get back to the front of the field. Julian Gonzalez is currently in 1st position, but he has to go defensive. All these cars started the race on cold tires, so it's a pretty complicated situation. Everyone wants to be racy, but they have to be very careful. The braking points are a little bit further away. The cars do not stop that well on cold tires, so we have a battle further down the top 10. Simonas Urbonas defending his 9th position from Grantas Kareckas and Luigi Kimi. Ernestas Andriauskas pressuring Cabrero. All of these drivers driving different manufacturer cars. We can see that Harkot has managed to go by Matas Mendelis on the 130-yard turn. What a nice move. We have a accident and Dario Cabrero is turned around together with Müller and Garcia, so a massive crash in the first lap of the race. And what a lead Jakub Harkot has managed to extend through the last chicane of the track. He already has a 8/10 lead over Matas Mendelis. Jan Nimtz has made a mistake. He was running strongly in the 2nd position. He is now down to 8th. He got passed by Simonas Urbonas. That's position number 7. Luigi Kimi is right behind him, so that's a nightmare of a start and the beginning of the race for the German driver, who's standing strong in the championship positions. Luigi Kimi is looking to be a little bit faster and having a little bit more grip than the German driver. Maybe the tires have got some dirt on the tires of Jan Nimtz, but that did not help Luigi Kimi to get in front of the German driver, who just made a mistake. Simonas Urbonas up to position number 6 with a McLaren GT3 car, having a nice start for his race. He has some fast drivers right behind him. All the grid is stacked up behind this red McLaren car belonging to the Lithuanian driver Simonas Urbonas. There's a bigger gap between him and the guy in front, so he is focused to the rear view mirrors, trying to hold down the driver who made a mistake 1 lap ago. Jakub Harkot already up into 3rd place. What happened to David Perez? There's a crash. Matas Mendelis involved. Something happened there, and all of the grid is going through the drivers. Jakub Harkot up into 3rd place. Jan Nimtz is back to defending from Luigi Kimi. He was not able to hold the pressure from the German driver, and he's trying to defend from the Spaniard. Rodriguez is right behind this battle, and we have a driver that is already out of the race. That was David Perez, who started the race very, very strongly, has now got out of it. Fernando Rodriguez, 7th position, driving a Ferrari car, looking very strong. He has Simonas Urbonas right in his view, trying to hit all the apexes, makes some small mistakes throughout the course. That does not help him to try and catch the drivers in front. He has to watch his back at the moment. As you can see, the whole grid is stacked up behind. Any small mistake may cause out a huge drama, as seen before. when the grid is that stacked up tightly, there's always lots of troubles that might come after a mistake is made. Jakub Harkot approaching the couple of leaders very fast, only half a second separating him and the Polish driver Prochnitsa, and Lucian Prochnitsa missed his braking point. He was running very close to Julian Gonzalez. It looks like he just did not see his known braking points, and that cost him a mistake. Jakub Harkot driving the fastest lap of the race, 2 minutes and 2 minutes 2 seconds and 7/10. That's pretty fast, having in mind that the cars started on full fuel tanks. Julian Gonzalez has to defend throughout this race, although he's still in first place, but he's constantly looking at his rear view mirrors. The cars are changing behind him, and now he has the fastest car on the grid right on his tail. This should give him some nice pressure, and we will be able to see how he's able to cope with the pressure that he's getting from Jakub Harkot, the driver from Poland, driving a Nissan GT-R car that's not very popular at this series. And it looks like Jakub Harkot outbraked himself a little, trying to put some enormous pressure on the leader of the race. Has cost himself to do a small mistake. Lucian Prochnitsa was a little bit too far behind this driver. He was not able to use this situation. He remains third, and we have some tighter gaps down the midfield. This is a fight for position number 5. Simonas Urbonas is running very close behind Luigi Kimi. Simonas lost the place for the Spaniard race driver a lap ago, but he's willing to strike back. Jan Nimtz, who has got back into 4th position, just drove the fastest lap of the race, 2 minutes 2 seconds and 2/10. While Simonas Urbonas is putting some nice pressure on the Luigi Kimi. A nice move to the inside of the track puts Simonas back into 5th place, and we have another McLaren driver, Grantas Karetskas, running very close to this battle. Anything can change in every turn of this track while the drivers are running very close to each other. Any attacking move slows the drivers a little bit, which is giving the chance for other drivers. A small mistake from Simonas Urbonas puts Luigi Kimi right back into the 5th place. So this battle is still not over, and it's nice to seeing the positions changing lap by lap. Positions starting from P number 5 to P number 11 are all running in a nice train. Fernando Rodriguez, being in the 11th position, is still in a nice position to battle for better places. He's 1 second behind Salvador Garcia. We have a lot of Spaniard drivers in this championship, and Fernando Rodriguez has got some understeer to his car, lost some 3/10 in this turn, while Salvador Garcia is still battling the drivers in front. A nice view in the rear view mirrors of Luigi Kimi. He's seeing a nice train of cars behind him. Every driver willing to get and be in the position that Luigi Kimi currently is running at. And And Jakub Harkot is fighting Julian Gonzalez for the win. We missed the start of this battle, but it's still going on. Julian Gonzalez was able to defend the first place, although Harkot was out in front for a short moment of time. We have more drivers who are not going to finish this race. Lots of incidents happened in the first part of the race. Not every driver is able to continue racing with the damaged cars. The fight for the lead has given the chance for Lucian Prochnica, who is currently in third place, to try and be involved in that battle. Jan Nimtz is pushing pretty hard. He's running fourth, only 1 second behind Prochnica, so any attack or defensive move might slow this top 3 drivers a little bit, and that's a nice chance for the driver from Germany, who made a mistake at the beginning of the race, which cost him some positions. There was a contact in the battle for the lead. Jakub Harkot did not find enough space on track. Both of the drivers touch each other, and Jakub Harkot was still able to get out in front, but that gave a nice chance for Lucian Prochnica. He's battling Julian Gonzalez, and he's holding the inside line of the track, approaching the left-hand corner. Lucian Prochnica is up into second position. Jan Nimtz is on a nice run. He's in fourth position and running very close to Julian Gonzalez, who just got back out of one battle and one contact with the current leader, Jakub Harkot. Jan Nimtz was 2.3 seconds faster the last lap around, and is the car from Julian Gonzalez may be damaged a little bit. What a nice drifting session from the German driver. Both BMWs had a small contact. Both of them ran sideways for a short moment of time, and both of these drivers are continuing racing and battling each other. We have drivers that already are making their pit stops. Luigi Kimi, who was running in the 5th place, is out in the pit lane. I'm wondering if this is a strategic move or was there some contact. We have more battles going on in the top 10. Matas Mendelis in the chase behind the Jan Garbas, one of the Mercedes AMG GT3 cars on the grid. It has a phenomenal sound, as you can hear it when we're driving on board with Jan Garbas. Another Polish driver who is out in the grass, Simonas Urbonas. Was it a contact or was it a mistake from this driver? And Simonas Urbonas is out of this race, so lots of disasters happening in the first half of the race. We have 3 drivers that will not finish the 4th round of the Ring Freaks GT3 Endurance Series. What's happening around the track? And let's continue with the battle for position number 6. After Simonas Urbonas is out of the race, Matas Mendelis running very close to the Polish driver Jan Garbas, using all the circuit that he can, trying to be as fast as possible. Jakub Harkot, the leader of this race, was the fastest driver the last lap around. He just ran his personal best lap time, 2 minutes and 2 seconds, 3/10. Matas Mendelis using the slipstream of the car in front of him, but that is still not enough to try and run side by side, approaching the right-hand turns. Matas Mendelis is still able to run very close to Jan Garbas. With all the disturbed aerodynamic flow from the car in front of him, he's enjoying the grip that he has at the moment. Just lost the back end of the car, but catched it very masterfully. Grantas Kareckas running 5th. watching the battle going on behind him with the edge of his eye. He has a second gap that's pretty safe for this moment, and he can enjoy the battle going on behind him. That's a pretty narrow track for these white GT3 cars. There's not a lot of space to try and use to be a little bit faster. You have to be very, very careful to try and hit every point on the track that the driver is aiming for. Matas Mendel is braking very, very late. That was a little bit too late, I guess. He was not expecting Jan Garbas to brake earlier than he was. A small contact. Matas Mendelis let off his accelerator, did not make the move. That was not intentional. Both of these drivers lost about a second of a lap time. That puts Salvador Garcia to a better position into this battle for position number 6. Only 1 second is separating these drivers at the moment. We have Mantas Povilaitis, who is up into the top 10. He managed to overtake now that's a name. I'll try to spell it correctly, or as I can, Wojciech Kuc. Yeah, Wojciech Kuc has dropped down into 11th place, driving a McLaren car. He was not able to hold the pressure from Povilaitis, but he's still in the battle for the positions where points are given out to all the finishers. Jan Garbas doing a phenomenal job defending his positions. One small contact happened a lap ago, but these drivers are still continue racing. Let's take a quick look at the incident count of the drivers. Jan Garbas has 5 of them, Matas Mendelis has 6 of them. The leader has 1 incident point, and most of the drivers on the grid are still safe. There are a maximum of 16 incident points allowed. 1, 2 or 4 incident points are given for a contact. Regarding the impact of it, the harder the contact, the more incident points the driver gets. It doesn't matter who you contact or what you contact with, either another car or a wall. So these drivers know that they cannot drive recklessly. They need to be safe if they want to finish this race. That lets this racing be a little bit more incidentless. Only small contacts happen time to time, as we have already seen. Of course, bigger contacts cannot be avoided when these drivers are racing on the highest standards as they are. The battling for positions is pretty strong, and it's really worth trying for. The prize pool and the prizes are really amazing. 2,000 euros for the top 10 finishers of the championship will be given out, and the drivers will be able to spend that money for real track experience, driving BMW cars that Ring Freaks will organize for those winners. Matas Mendelis is still chasing strong. He can see that Jan Garbas is making some small mistakes. They are not big enough for Matas Mendelis to try and attack the car in front. Maybe these drivers are in the stage where they should just follow each other for a little bit and then let the strategy games come into play. We have one mandatory pit stop to be made in this session by all the drivers to make the fuel fill up and tire change. This is mandatory to be classified after the race finishes, and therefore we have more and different strategies involved throughout the racing. We have some more tire compounds to choose from, so some drivers choose to start the race with a softer compound tires, others start the race with harder compounds, and that makes the racing a little bit more less projective. After the pit stops, the positions might change than they are at this moment. The leader Jakub Harkot has a nice gap of 3.3 seconds against Lucian Prochnitsa. Let's hope that today is a better day for the Polish driver than it was a week ago. He was driving all by himself out in front that time, but there was some problems with lapped cars, and Jakub Harkot finished somewhere down or in the midfield. He's back and he is willing to try and see the finish flag for the first time, being in first position. Some position changes or some mistakes from the drivers riding towards the back of the field. Miguel Martin is dropping positions, and Rodriguez Fernando seems to have made a mistake a couple of turns ago. He's down to 12th place, and we have some bigger gaps between most of the drivers. Davis Bitte is in the pit lane. Looks to be his strategical and mandatory pit stop. He stops a little bit earlier than most of the grid, and Matas Mendelis is still fighting for position number 6. And Fernando Rodriguez is out of the race. We have 4 cars that are not going to finish this race already. That's a pretty hard and technical track to race at. You can see from the differences in the lap times from the drivers. This is one of the tougher tracks on the calendar. Of course, the hell is still in front. In this championship, the last round will take place at the virtual Nordschleife circuit, the same track that the top 10 finishers will be able to drive in the real world after the championship finishes. That will be the most technical track on the championship, but Suzuka is no exception, and you can see from the timings on your screens. Not everyone is able to drive similarly on this track for constant lap times. The leader is about 3 to 4 tenths faster than the guys behind him. Jan Nint being in 4th place, he holds the fastest lap of this session, 2 minutes 2.1, and he just ran a lap time similar or identical to the lap time of the leader. He's 1.2 seconds behind Julian Gonzalez, and these drivers are all in a battle for the lead in this championship, with Julian Gonzalez holding the best place of them all. Of course, he has started in all the races that happened this season, and he managed to finish all of them in podium positions. So he's still in the 3rd place at the moment. And That's more than enough for him to try and be very hard to beat in the overall standings after the championship is going to finish. Jan Nimtz putting some nice pressure on Julian Gonzalez. The gap is decreasing. It's already smaller than 1 second, only 9/10 separating Nimtz and Julian Gonzalez, and both of these drivers are driving the same manufacturer car, BMW Z4, which gives both of them the same performance at this stage of the race. As seen before in the earlier events, the BMWs are a little bit harsher on the tires, and they seem to struggle a bit towards the end of their stints, but that's not the case at this race, as it seems to be now. Jan Nimtz was very fast the last lap around. Jakub Harkot 2 minutes 2 and 7/10. Lucian Prochnica was even faster, or just ran his fastest lap. Jan Nimtz was 4/10 faster than the driver in front, so some nice and identical lap times for Jan Nimtz. Let's this driver to be in the chase for the top positions of this race. We're approaching the mid stage of this session. That means the mandatory pit stops should begin shortly. We have Povilaitis, who is already in the pit lane, and I think that at the end of this lap there will be more drivers approaching the pit lane, which then will mix up the field a little bit, and hopefully this time all goes well for Jakub Harkot. He has a nice gap of 4.4 seconds and he continues extending it. He's on a nice rhythm at this moment and trying to do no mistakes, as we have already seen from this driver a week ago. Matas Mendel is still in a battle with Jan Garbas. This time he's very close. Jan Garbas is defending the inside line. Matas Mendel should have a better exit from this turn, although it was masterfully defended by Jan Garbas exiting the turn. He just shut the door, and Matas Mendelis was not able to press his accelerator as early as he wished and aimed for. And Jan Garbas is showing a masterful driving, defending his 6th place. Only driver with a Mercedes brand on the grid in the 1st division. Amazing sound and very different to other cars this car is producing, and it's really nice to listen to. Matas Mendelis making all that he can to try and battle Jan Garbas, and both of these drivers are entering the pit lane at the same time. And what was the move from Matas Mendelis? Looks like Jan Garbas has braked a little bit too early, or was trying to enter the pit lane a little bit careful. Matas Mendelis did not expect that. He was not able to brake in time. There was a contact and Matas Mendelis became some damage to his car. That's a pretty strange situation that happened on the virtual racetrack of Suzuka. Jan Garbas already exiting his pit lane, and Matas Mendelis he is right behind him, so no position changes during the pit stops, and this was not a nice and strategical move from Matas Mendelis. He should have tried to stay outside for one more lap. That did not happen, and he will have to try and beat Jan Garbas on track. He was not able to do that in the first stage of the race. He will have another 30 minutes to try and do what he would like to. Jan Nimtz is still running fourth, but all the three drivers starting from position 2 up to position number 4 are closing each other. The gaps are tightening. Only 1.8 seconds are separating these three drivers. Another lap approaching to the end. Will we see some drivers of the top 4 places entering the pits at this time? Yes, we do. Jakub Harkot, the leader of this race, is in the pit lane. Jan Nimt is entering it too. So nice to see some different strategies from the drivers. There's a nice chance opening to one of them, either Jan Nimt finishing in better positions after the 2 other drivers will make their pit stops, or these drivers and extending their lead. That's always pretty interesting to witness how it goes to everyone and decide which is the best strategy for every race. You can see some position changes in the pit lane. That's because the pit boxes are in different places. Jakub Harkot should exit the track in 3rd place. That's what he does. He's on fresh rubber. These tires are cold at the moment, but he's all by himself. With a fresh tire, he should be able to drive some faster laps, and now everything depends on Lucian Prochnica and Julian Gonzalez. How long will these drivers be able to stay out on track and run competitive lap times? And Matas Mendelis and looks like Luigi Kimi both had an accident. Matas Mendelis returning to the track after his pit stop on fresh rubber. Luigi Kimi was in the pit lane in the beginning of the race, and that did not go well for both of the BMW drivers. Luigi Kimi is down to 12th, Matas Mendelis down to 11th position, and that goes not to plan for this driver. Everything can change in a matter of a second, and well, I should say bad luck keeps chasing Matas Mendelis in this championship. In the meanwhile, the leader Lucian Prochnica is in the pit lane. Jan Garbas was just let through by Lloyd Chatillon. Both of these drivers are running on a different strategy. Prochnica is still out in the pit lane, and Jakub Harkot is approaching the final turns of this track. That should be close. Jakub Harkot had 4.5 seconds lead over Lucian Prochnica prior entering the pit lane. We can see further in the screens that Lucian Prochnica is exiting the pit lane, and he is out in front at the moment, but Jakub Harkot should be able to make the pass. Yes, indeed. So that was close, and it looks like that staying out for a couple of laps helps the driver to gain some seconds lost on the track. Of course, Lucian Prochnica is currently on colder tires. He should lose some time on the racetrack until his tires will reach the needed temperature. But Julian Gonzalez is still out on track, and I am wondering what advantage he might be able to get for himself. We can see that Jan Nimt is 2.7 seconds behind Lucian Prochnica, so he lost about a second during these pit stops. Having a warmer tire at the moment, he is able to go a little bit faster than Lucian Prochnica is going at the moment. And we have still one driver out on track who has not yet made a pit stop. Is it going to be this time around? It looks like so. Julian Gonzalez, the leader of the championship, is entering the pit lane, doing it pretty fast. 34 seconds was the gap between Julian Gonzalez and Jakub Harkot prior entering the pit lane. And Jakub Harkot is approaching the final turns of the lap. He should get by Julian Gonzalez pretty easily. but I'm willing to see how it ends for the fight for the second place. Lucian Prochnica was running second prior to the pit stops. Julian Gonzalez was third, and it's going to be very tight, and that strategy repeats. The driver who is able to stay out for a longer time is out in front, and there was a contact between Julian Gonzalez and Lucian Prochnica, and that's not looking good for the leader of the championship. He was out of the pit lane. He was holding the inside line. Lucian Prochnica, with a warmer tire, decided to try and make a move. He's back in the battle. He still was able to go around Julian Gonzalez, but the winner of the battle is Jan Nimtz. He has his pit stop behind him already. His tires are warm, so that's a nice win in positions for the German driver Jan Nimtz. He was very fast before the pit stops. He was running faster than Lucian and Jakub. Let's wait and see if he will be able to repeat the same, being in front of both of these guys. Jakub Harkot has extended his lead to 6.5 seconds while these guys were battling. Grant Askareckas, running fifth, is further behind. Some 20 seconds separates him and Julian Gonzalez. So these three drivers are pretty safe to battle each out. Try and be a little bit more aggressive. No one is very close to them, and they are not risking to lose more positions. Have a three-car battle for position number 8. Ernestas Andrijauskas, having a damaged car, is out in front. Jakub Harkot had just ran his personal best lap, which was a little bit slower than the fastest lap of the race. About 1/10 slower than Jan Nimtz was around this circuit during the race time, and we're about 9/10 slower than we were in qualifying session. Ernestas Andrijauskas is not able to find the pace that he needs and he would be willing to run at. He has to defend from Povilaitis and Mendelis that are running behind him. All of the drivers driving the same brand BMW Z4 GT3 cars. So everything is down to the driver in this battle. Matas Mendelis has got himself some damage in that unlucky incident in the pit lane. He has to finish this race with a slightly damaged car that is not helping the driver to be consistent and fast around this Japanese racetrack. And he's still in the role of a chaser, and he just loses positions throughout this race. There are still 20 minutes left, so hopefully this driver will find his pace and he will be able to finish this session with a small smile on his face. Ernestas Andrijauskas is trying hard, running wider lines and still being in front of the other Lithuanians running just behind him. Jan Nimtz driving very fast at this stage of the race. He is faster than the leader of the race, but the leader is very far out in front. He still has some 6 seconds gap that will not be very easy to eliminate in the remainder of this session. Povilaitis up to position number 9, putting some nice pressure for Ernestas Andrijauskas, running very close, trying he tries to make his car as wide as possible throughout the track to make some disturbances for the driver in front. He is hoping to force Andrijauskas into a mistake. Salvador Garcia, running in 7th place, is still reachable, and he's only 2.5 seconds in front of Andrijauskas, so the drivers running behind him are willing to try their luck, and they look to be able to run a little bit faster, if not stuck behind Ernestos, who is doing a nice defensive job at the moment, making his car as wide as possible, trying to hit all the apexes and close the doors where the cars behind might try and do a pass. Ernestas Andrijauskas turning in very early, already defending the inside line. That's a chance for Matas Mendelis. He ran wide in one of the corners earlier in the lap. He's back into the fight, and this is a nice three BMWs battle for position number 8. It's right on board with Matas Mendelis. 4 tenths separates him and Povilaitis. Matas Mendelis enjoying the view through the scattered window, and he is watching the fight in front very closely. Ernestas Andrijauskas running a little bit wide. Matas Mendelis just follows his line. Hard on the tires, trying and pushing the maximum of their cars. Matas Mendelis lost some time in the final section of the track. Povilaitis still running very close to Ernestas Andrijauskas. Only 3 tenths separates these both drivers. But a track like Suzuka is not a easy place to make passes going on. And all that the drivers are trying to do is try and force a mistake for the drivers running in front of them. But as mentioned before, all of these drivers are the fastest racers according to their ratings in the WorldSimSeries.com platform. So these guys really know what they are doing on the track, and they are not that easy forced into mistakes. That's what makes the driving pretty hard and masterful. Some different lines these drivers are running in the turns. Matas Mendelis, a small mistake running behind. That's not an easiest task with a car that has some aerodynamical downforce. Running behind others makes you lose some front end grip, and the car is not willing to turn into mid-speed corners that easily. This should be over. This should force into the overheating of the front tires, but there's no time left thinking about it. They just want to be as close as possible and try to use any possibility that could open out on track. Ernestas Andrijauskas running very calmly. He has his position defended for the last couple of laps. He knows his lines. And it looks like he's just simply focusing on his racing, trying to stay out in front. He made his pit stop a little bit earlier, but the mistakes of other drivers put him out in front to position number 8. Povilaitis is very close, but That's not the type of a track where you can make passes that easily. Everything should be planned very carefully, and the drivers running behind should study the driver in front. Mantas Povilaitis just made a small mistake. Matas Mendelis is running very close to him at this stage, trying to find the way on the circuit somewhere to fit in a car that could run sideways, side to side to your opponent. That's still not happening, and these drivers are really trying their best not to do a mistake and to wait for a chance to open for them to try and make the pass stick. Very different lines. All these three drivers are running through the 130R turn. Andrijauskas and Matas Mendelis are using the wider line, while Mantas Povilaitis is running a little bit tighter in that turn. But both or all of those drivers are running pretty similar pace at this moment. Jan Nimtz is still running a little bit faster than the leader of the race, but that's not enough. He is 5.6 seconds behind him. He has a nice gap between him and the third place Lucian Prochnitsa. Julian Gonzalez, the leader of the championship, currently fourth, and about 2-second gaps separate the second and fourth place at the moment, so there are still chances for every driver to finish in a better position. And Ernestas Andrijauskas is still struggling, but still holding his 8th position. It looks like he has not have the best grip on track at the moment, but he is still able to hold on to his position. Let's wait and see if that's the case till the end of the race. And again, different lines on the circuit, but similar results at the end of the lap. We're approaching the last 10 minutes of the race. This means there's less chances lap by lap for the drivers to better their positions. You can see the identical lap times from the positions from 8th to 10th. These drivers are battling for positions, but it's not the easiest task to overtake a car that is running on a similar pace. It looks like the drivers behind Ernestas are a little bit faster, but they are not able to overtake the very nicely defensive Ernestas at the moment. Let's ride on board with Matas Mendelis. He's running very close to Povilaitis, and Mantas is running very close to Andrijauskas. Is it a chance for Matas Mendelis? Mantas Povilaitis already going defensive. Will Matas Mendelis have a better exit of the turn? It seems so, but that's still not enough to position your car side by side with your opponent. A narrow track and some fast sweeping turns are not allowing to do this. This is one of the hardest turns on track, the spoon turn that is going downhill. and always turning left. There is not that much of a front grip, and running behind other cars is not helping the drivers. And we can see the gaps constantly changing, always taking the same lines for these three drivers. Mantas Povilaitis running the tighter line lap by lap. The other drivers are trying to use all the space and allowed track. They are not given penalties and they are willing to go a little bit faster. Only 9 minutes left of racing, and that's not what Ernestas could be able to tell at the moment. He has done a phenomenal job holding the cars behind him. He is still continuing doing that, but it's looking to be harder and harder lap after lap. The shape of his tires is not looking at the best condition at the moment. But he's still doing a phenomenal job, hitting all his apexes and braking points, which seems to be a little bit slower than the ones from the drivers behind, but that's more than enough for Ernestas Andrijauskas to stay out in front and defend the position that he's running in. There's more points offered for finishing in 8th place than in a 10th. That's what Ernestas Andrijauskas is aiming for. Julian Gonzalez decreasing the gap a little bit between him and Lucian Prochnica. Jan Nimtz was able to extend his gap between him and the 3rd place Lucian. Is it some battle open up towards the end of the race for position number 3? I'm sure that Julian Gonzalez is pressing pretty hard at the moment, seeing the Polish driver right in front of his eyes. He's giving him some motivation. The gap is constantly decreasing. It looks like this BMW is doing a better job at this stage of the race. We have about 4 laps left of pure racing. There's plenty of chances for Julian Gonzalez to get back into the top 3 positions and still continue with the podium finishes throughout this championship, as he has already done in the past 3 races. 1.2 seconds. Does Lucian have some problems with his tires? Was it a strategy move? He was one of the later stoppers of the front runners. Did he decide to put some softer tire on his car? Maybe that's slowing him down entering the last stage of the race. He just outbraked himself a little, overshot the final chicane, and that cost him about 3/10. The gap is about 1 second at the moment. Julian Gonzalez just ran his personal best lap of the race, 2 minutes 2 seconds and 4/10, and he was about a second faster than Lucian Prochnica. Does he have a problem? Julian Gonzalez just made a small mistake, not causing much of a lap time. What's happening with the Polish driver Lucian? Is he having some tire issues? Maybe he's on a fuel saving strategy at the moment. A lot is going on for him, but the gap is constantly decreasing and he is risking to lose his 3rd place. He managed to win the race a week ago. He's still on a podium position at the moment, but that is not looking very good for him at the moment. He's losing time at every turn, and the gap will be very risky a couple of turns. Running very wide, missing the apexes. It's looking to be a tire problem for Lucian Prochnica. He's running all by himself. He has all the aerodynamics of his car, but it looks like his front tires are not sticking that well to the tarmac. That's causing him some troubles. There should be 2 laps left in this race. It's very close on the race time. There might be 2 or 3 laps. All depends on Jakub Harkot when he will cross the line the next time by. That's what Lucian Prochnica is praying at the moment. He wishes the race would be a little bit shorter. 2 laps is enough. He is already defending his 3rd place, having some issues and not being able to run as fast as he was able some laps ago. 2 minutes 3 seconds 7 tenths versus 2 minutes 3 seconds and 3 tenths. Julian Gonzalez was 4 tenths slower the last lap around, but he is already in the slipstream and losing front ground. Lucian Prochnica running a little bit wide, forcing himself into a mistake. There is no place on track for Julian Gonzalez to make the move. It looks like Julian Gonzalez was forced into a mistake. Ernestas Andrijauskas losing the position to Mantas Povilaitis. He's able to get back in front of him. Matas Mendelis is further down behind. It looks like he made a mistake towards the end of the race. That's a hell of a race for Matas Mendelis. He has not driven a one successful stage in this race, and he looks to always be losing time in this race. Mantas Povilaitis was able to overtake Ernestas Andrijauskas 1 time. He is willing to repeat that, but he still has to defend the position when he gets out in front of Ernestas Andrijauskas. Nice racing from both of the Lithuanians, with a slight edge going to Ernestas Andrijauskas, being defensive and doing that very, very masterfully. He's willing and he's hoping that the tires will burn for the drivers running behind him. Mantas Povilaitis 5 tenths behind. What happened to Lucian Prochnica? It looks like he has no tires left on his car. He was not able to hold the car on one of the first turns. He ran a little bit wide, and that's a position and a gift for Julian Gonzalez. He's out in front and he's back into the top 3 positions. That's what Julian Gonzalez is aiming for. If he will be able to finish in this place, he will continuously be finishing on podium places in this championship, and that should make him practically unbeatable. Being constant and being fast, always finishing in top 3 places, is giving the maximum amount of points for this driver in this championship. Jakub Harkot is on the spoon turn at this moment, and it looks like there's not enough time to start another lap in this race, so we are on the final lap of the 4th round of the GT3 Ring Freaks Endurance Series. It should be Ring Freaks GT3 Endurance Series. Final chicane for the Polish driver. He started from pole, he dropped back to 7, he got back his car into the first place, and he finished the race not being defeated. What a result and what a racing from the Polish driver Jan Nimtz, the German driver driving a BMW, finishing second, and what a finish for Julian Gonzalez. He got back to podium places on the last lap of this race, and he was able to finish there. Lucian Prochnitsa, the winner of the last race, finished 4th. We have Grantas Kareckas driving a McLaren, who will finish this race in 5th place, some 30 seconds behind Lucian Prochnitsa. Mantas Povilaitis is still in a battle with Ernestas Andriauskas, having Matas Mendelis further behind. Is leaving the whole circuit for him, but that's still not enough. Ernestas Andriauskas will defend his position, and what a job that this driver has made. He defended his place for about 28 minutes of the race. Nice racing from these guys. Our top 10 finishers are going to collect some points. Luigi Kimi will finish only 11th. That's a pretty bad luck for this Spaniard driver. He started the race pretty well, but then got himself into some accidents. So that's it. That's the end for the 4th round of the Ring Freaks GT3 Endurance Series, where a prize pool of 2,000 euros is going to be given out for the top 10 finishers of the championship. We have 8 rounds in total, and this was the 4th round of the championship. Jakub Harkot is the winner of this race. A nice result from the Polish driver. And let's take a look what still awaits us in this championship, where GT3 cars are meeting each other. Round 4, then we had 6 divisions, about 130 drivers starting this race. We are heading to Italy, a legendary Imola racetrack, 4.9 kilometers in length. It will promise us some nice battles from these cars. Thanks everyone for being with us on this Tuesday evening. I will leave you, and we will meet this Sunday for the 4th round of the EBA TCC Championship. A nice battle awaits us on a Finnish racetrack, Botnia Ring. Have a good evening, and see you in a while.
Hello and welcome. Everybody knows that time is money. That's why our team would like to present a new feature, the calendar. To plan your race, just sign into the system, pick the event where you would like to participate, and click on the Google Calendar icon. The event will appear in your calendar list and won't let you forget about the upcoming events.